Hello, a very good day to all of you. You are with me, Reginda Hans. This is tvsarawak.com. These are our headlines for today. Sarawak General Hospital and Sibu Hospital are among 7 hospitals under the Ministry of Health to join the Quintile Prime Site Program. Vital Native Customary Rights Survey issued with titles, and state government is looking into improving its civil service. The other hospitals participating are Queen Elizabeth II Hospital, Raja Perempuan Zainab II Hospital, Raja Permaisuri Bainun Hospital, Sultanah Baiyah Hospital and Tunku Ampuan Raimah Hospital. Quintile's Prime Site Program is a global initiative focused on accelerating the development of new and more effective medicines. The government recently signed a memorandum of agreement with Clinical Research Malaysia and Quintiles Malaysia Sendirian Berhad on clinical research services to facilitate industry-sponsored clinical trials at the hospitals. According to Minister of Health Datuk Seri Dr. S. Subramaniam, this partnership is expected to facilitate the efficient enrolment of volunteers for clinical trials and the conduct of such trials with high quality, and in turn will be instrumental in helping Malaysia achieve a target of 1,000 ongoing clinical trials by 2020. Dr. Subramaniam, who is also CRM Board Chairman, said clinical research had been identified as a priority of Entry Point Project 2 under the Healthcare National Key Economic Area Initiative. He informed that the government has invested strategically to create a supportive ecosystem to grow clinical research, which led to the establishment of CRM as a non-profit government-owned company in 2012. CRM is tasked to coordinate the promotion of Malaysia as a high-quality and high-performing clinical research destination in the Asian region. The Ministry of Health currently has 30 clinical research centre facilities located at government hospitals, which aim to lead research in Asia and improve patient health outcomes through ethical and quality clinical research. The network of CRC has physicians certified in the required good clinical practice and who practice good standards of care comparable to developed nations. Sarawak natives have plenty of land, but unless and until they have the relevant documents in their hands, they still cannot confidently say the land is theirs. Minister of Infrastructure Development and Communications Datuk Seri Michael Manian said it was therefore important that all native customary rights land be surveyed and issued with titles. He said that due to this, the government has introduced NCR, a new initiative to protect the landowners and make sure they will not lose rights over their land in future. With budget of 60 million ringgit, and this year an additional 30 million ringgit has been allocated for the survey. He said that although the process takes time, however, the government through the Land and Survey Department will make sure that all NCR lands are surveyed and issued with titles, and that the landowners have nothing to worry about because on completion of the perimeter survey, the land which has been confirmed to have been occupied by them on or before January 1st, 1958 will be gazetted as native communal land. Initially, a common title will then be issued as proof that the land is owned by the community before individual lots are surveyed and issued with titles. He said this was an ongoing process undertaken by the government since 2010, but unfortunately some people were skeptic about it in the beginning. Thus, he requested the villagers and landowners to give their full cooperation to the surveyors to avoid unnecessary delay to the program. The state government is constantly looking into improving the civil service to ensure it is always at its level best. State Secretary Tan Sri Dato' Amal Murshidi Abdul Ghani said, with the ongoing changes that occur within the state civil service, it was imperative that its work processes and services moved forward as well to benefit the people. He pointed out that the state civil service is always changing, and to be in tandem with the changes, it has to improve its procedures and services. Tan Sri Morshidi said civil servants were encouraged to participate in the innovative and creative circle, where teams were formed to find solutions in solving issues and problems which affect the services provided for the people. He gave an example of KIK team from Bintulu, which has found a solution for a clogged water pump system due to sediment from the river by installing a floating water pump instead. Apart from KIK, Morshidi said other approaches towards improving the civil service were through the key focus activity involving heads of department as well as high performance team solution comprising heads of departments such as Public Works Department and Fire and Rescue Department, among others. Both fresh school leavers and preschool teachers can pursue formal education by earning their early childhood education diploma under Universiti Pendidikan Sultan Idris. This alternative route will give opportunity to current preschool teachers to get their formal qualification and fulfill the government's aim to have more diploma holders in preschool. Early Childhood Education and Family Development Assistant Minister Rosie Yunos said this initiative would open up the gate further for more locals to pursue early childhood education as a career. UHSB Chief Operating Officer Dr. Abdul Rahim Muhammad Yusof said the program was being used in several states in Peninsular Malaysia, and in Sarawak, UHSB intends to develop it in several main locations such as Sibu, Miri, Bintulu and Kuching. Those interested in being part of the Kuching program can look for UPSI at the State Education Department Auditorium at Jalan Baku at 10 p.m. on October 12th. Further information can be obtained from Muhammad Hajat Saifullah Nahar or Muhammad Hanif Jamsari. Application forms can be downloaded from upsi.upsi.edu.my. Moving on to the Malaysian news. The Real Estate and Housing Developers Association Malaysia wants Putrajaya to forego the stamp duty on property after the implementation of the Goods and Services Tax in April. That is because the implementation of the stamp duty and the proposed GST was tantamount to double taxation. REDA past President Dato' Ng Sieng Leong told a press conference in conjunction with the upcoming Malaysia Property Exposition that the implementation of the 6% GST together with the stamp duty would burden house buyers because the tax they have to pay would hit 10% of the property price. MAPEX is scheduled to be held on October 10th to 12th this year. In a memorandum sent to the government on REDA's wish list for Budget 2015, REDA called upon the government to categorise affordable housing with prices below RM400,000 as zero-rated under the GST. This means the developer would not pass down the cost to the buyer, as the developer can claim back the output cost. For now, residential housing is exempted from the GST. This means house buyers will not be subjected to the tax and developers cannot claim back the tax they paid. Ng said the proposed GST structure for residential housing would burden developers. He also pointed out there are some areas in the supply chain the government needs to look into upon the implementation of the GST. This include issues involving building material distributors and landowners in a joint venture. REDA urged the government to reduce the 6% tax to 1% or 2%. Sime Darby Berhad has walked away from buying a stake in New Britain Palm Oil Limited after the exclusivity period to conclude the deal ended. Sime Darby gave no reason for walking away from negotiating to buy a 48.97% stake in New Britain Palm Oil Limited from Kulim Berhad. Analysts wonder if the collapse of the takeover would lead to Felda Global Ventures Holdings Berhad or Singapore's Wilmar International Limited and Indonesia's Sinar Mas Group and RGE Group entering fresh negotiations with Kulim. Analysts had, prior to the deal collapsing, wondered about the delay in striking a deal, with some thinking whether the fall in crude palm oil prices had any influence on matters. The price of CPO was at 2,257 ringgit per tonne when Kulim announced it was dealing with Sime Darby for the sale of the London and Port Moresby listed New Britain Palm Oil Limited. The price of the commodity then fell to a low of 1,929 ringgit but has since clawed back up to 2,219 ringgit a tonne. With Sime Darby now out of the race for New Britain Palm Oil Limited, FGE is back in the spot to likely re-enter the bidding process. FGE, which has 5.1 billion ringgit in its coffers, was the first party to have declared its interest to acquire New Britain Palm Oil Limited. After the intense tender process concluded, Kulim opted to sign the exclusivity deal with Sime Darby with the intention of firming up a deal within that 60-day period. With Sime Darby aborting the deal, Kulim can open talks with other parties. New Britain Palm Oil Limited is presently trading at a mere £3.8, a significant 97% discount to the £7.5 price. New Britain Palm Oil Limited has 77,000 hectares of oil palm plantations in PNG and the Solomon Islands, 12 palm oil mills and 1 refinery each in PNG and Liverpool. It is also the largest sugar and beef producer in PNG, with over 7,700 hectares of sugarcane plantations and 9,200 hectares of grazing pastures, as well as a seed production and palm breeding facility. ATMs at 3 more bank branches have been hacked and almost 450,000 ringgit stolen as police launched a nationwide hunt for the Latin American suspects responsible for the thefts. The spate of ATM hacks continued, with the United Overseas Bank branch in Jalan Imbi yesterday reporting a 92,900 ringgit theft by one of the hackers. Kuala Lumpur Police said CCTV footage showed the suspect going in and out of the bank 4 times, changing his outfit each time. In Malacca, bank managers of the Affin Bank and Al Rajhi Bank branches in Taman Malacca Raya lodged police reports saying that the ATMs were missing a total of 355,570 ringgit in cash. Malacca Police Chief Senior Assistant Commissioner Datuk Chua Gilai said both managers lodged reports after discovering from CCTV footage that groups of 2 to 3 suspects used the same modus operandi and withdrew money from their ATMs. The Al Rajhi Bank branch reportedly lost 232,770 ringgit, which was withdrawn by 2 suspects, while the Affin Bank branch lost 122,800 ringgit to 3 suspects. So far, there have been 18 reported cases of ATMs being hacked into, with about 3.1 million ringgit in cash drained out of the machines. Federal Police have launched Ops Albatross, a nationwide hunt to track down the suspects, and released pictures of 5 Latin American men caught on CCTV as they were hacking into and withdrawing money out of the ATMs. Bukit Aman Commercial Crime Investigation Department Director Commissioner Datuk Seri Murtaza Nazarin revealed that the suspects opened the top panel of the ATM and inserted a disk into the machine's CD-ROM drive to infect it with virus. After taking out the CD, they closed the panel and syndicate members would then withdraw all the money out of the ATM by keying in codes, which they received via telephone from an accomplice. The suspects would also jam the ATM slots with objects like SIM cards, paper or cigarette butts to stop other bank customers from withdrawing cash. Maybank Investment Bank Berhad, the Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank Incorporated Limited and the Bank of China Limited have launched Chagamas Berhad's inaugural 3-year 1.5 billion yuan Tiger Emas bond with a fixed coupon rate of 3.7% per annum. The bonds were issued through Chagamas' newly established $2.5 billion conventional multi-currency medium-term note program, which gives Chagamas the ability to issue bonds under a host of international currencies. Maybank IB, HSBC and BOC acted as the joint lead managers and joint book runners for this issuance. The Chagama sale drew a strong order book of more than 4.6 billion yuan, or an oversubscription rate of 3.1 times over the final issuance size of 1.5 billion yuan. By geographical distribution, Asia collectively made up 91% of the subscription, comprising Hong Kong, Singapore and Malaysia, with the remaining from Europe. By investor type, the issuance was allocated to fund managers, banks, sovereigns and other comprising private banks and corporates. Moving on to the global news. Terrorist incidents continue to occur in several areas in southern Thailand despite the government's announcement to hold peace talks with the rebel groups. Narathiwat Police Chief Major General Patanawut Angkawanich said 3 shooting incidents occurred on Monday night, claiming 1 life and causing injuries to 2 other people. The first incident took place at 7:11 p.m. local time in Srisakon district, where a 40-year-old security guard, Naichot D. Wanaro, sustained a gunshot wound after being shot while heading home from a hunting trip, he said. The police chief said in the second incident at 7:20 p.m, a Muslim woman, Nurhayati Muktasawat, 27, also sustained injuries after being shot at while heading home. At 7:50 p.m. local time, a religious school teacher on motorcycle, Wesema Suding, 67, died after being shot in the head while heading home from Palas Mosque in Penarik, Patani. A footage from a closed-circuit camera showed that 2 suspects had trailed behind the victim's motorcycle and shot him in the head upon reaching Palas Town 100 meters from the mosque. Meanwhile, Patani Police Chief Major General Pot Suwai Suang said the police would scrutinize the CCTV footage to identify and track down the suspects to ascertain whether the shooting was personal vengeance or related to the rebel groups. China is facing growing US pressure to show restraint during mass pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong, with the issue to be raised in high-level US-Chinese talks and a prominent US lawmaker expressing grave concerns. A day after the United States backed calls by thousands of protesters for greater autonomy in selecting candidates for Hong Kong's chief executive, US officials said Secretary of State John Kerry would discuss the issue with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi when the two meet in Washington on Wednesday. The protesters, mostly students, are demanding full democracy and have called on Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying to step down after Beijing ruled a month ago that it would vet candidates wishing to run for Hong Kong's leadership in 2017. They have threatened to escalate action over the next few days. Kerry was expected to say that the Hong Kong chief executive's legitimacy would be enhanced if people have genuine choice of candidates, a position expressed by the White House on Monday that went beyond the administration's previous broad calls for greater democracy. The United States has been carefully calibrating its response to the demonstrations, voicing support for non-violent protests while signaling it has little interest in seeing them escalate and risk a harsher crackdown by Chinese authorities. China rules Hong Kong under a formula that accords the former British colony a degree of autonomy and freedoms not enjoyed in mainland China. Any US response could be a tricky balancing act, especially given Beijing's transformation into a global economic powerhouse and how interdependent the US and Chinese economies have become since the Tiananmen crackdown in 1989. On Monday, China warned against other countries interfering or sending the wrong message to protesters. US officials have steadfastly denied Chinese accusations of meddling in Beijing's internal affairs. A man who flew from Liberia to Texas has become the first patient infected with the deadly Ebola virus to be diagnosed in the United States, health officials said on Tuesday, a sign the outbreak ravaging West Africa may spread globally. The patient sought treatment 6 days after arriving in Texas on September 20th, Dr. Thomas Frieden, director of the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, told reporters. He was admitted 2 days later to an isolation room at Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital in Dallas. US health officials and lawmakers have been bracing for the eventuality that a patient would arrive on US shores undetected, testing the preparedness of the nation's healthcare system. On Tuesday, Frieden and other health authorities said they were taking every step possible to ensure the virus did not spread widely. At least 3,091 people have died from Ebola in the worst outbreak on record that has been ravaging Liberia, Sierra Leone and Guinea in West Africa. More than 6,500 cases have been diagnosed, and the CDC has warned that the number of infections could rise to as many as 1.4 million people by early next year without a massive global intervention to contain the virus. US hospitals have treated and released 3 aid workers who were infected in Africa and flown back to the United States under strict medical supervision in a specially outfitted airplane. A 4th person is being treated at Emory University Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia, and a 5th person who may have been exposed to the virus is under observation at the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda, Maryland. Microsoft Corporations announced its Windows 10 operating system on Tuesday to replace the largely unpopular Windows 8, skipping a number to mark a leap toward unifying the way people work on tablets, phones, and traditional computers. The next version of Microsoft's flagship product, which still runs the vast majority of personal computers and is used by 1.5 billion customers worldwide, is aimed at recapturing the lucrative business market, which generally ignored the new-look Windows 8. Windows 10 will be their greatest enterprise platform ever, said Terry Myson, Microsoft's head of operating systems, at an event in San Francisco. Only 20% of organizations migrated to Windows 8, which was released 2 years ago, according to tech research firm Forrester. Many PC users disliked the touch-optimized interface and bemoaned the loss of the traditional Start button pop-up menu. He said Windows 10, long known by the project name Threshold internally, represented a new type of system for the company as it seeks to unify computing as mobile devices proliferate. The name represented that leap, he said. Microsoft faces an uphill struggle in reigniting excitement about Windows. With the rise of Apple Incorporated iPhone and iPad and Google Incorporated's Android devices, Windows no longer plays a central role in many people's on-screen lives. From a virtual monopoly on personal computing 10 years ago, Windows now runs only about 14% of devices, according to research firm Gartner. That's all we have for today. We'll be back tomorrow with more news. I'm Reginda Hans. Have a great day.